uh, years to, to let us know the quantum probably is near and will change a lot in coming 2, 3 years of time. And that's why we have entire one full day quantum sub summit that we organize, right? Uh, so what we want to discuss is why and why should we and what that means basically, right? To think and relate that to philosophical idea, uh, both Western and Eastern philosophical ideas basically, right? So if you want to really understand something which is very complex, uh, something which is overwhelming basically, right? Something which is, there are a lot of moving pieces which probably determines our area, that the best way to understand is at a very foundational level. And foundational level is actually philosophical level, right? The philosophy started, discipline of philosophy started uh, with that inquiry, foundation inquiry about us and the world around us, basically, right? So, so if you have to really think about our understanding or creating foundational understanding, the philosophical way is a better and probably critical ways to really create that understanding. So you can then take hold of all of those moving pieces better. You grasp the development happen much better, basically, right? And then you probably, uh, so there is also anxiety, right? So sometimes we get disturbed because what will AI do, we don't know. What will quantum will do, we don't know, basically, right? And that anxiety is there, basically. So that anxiety probably you can also take over or probably overcome the anxiety by trying to understand things at a more fundamental, foundational, philosophical level, basically. Right? So if I had to ask this question, uh, what do you get out of why the quantum AI and philosophy? Why these three words coming together, basically? Anybody? Can you get the mic quickly?
Trying to guess it actually, and you don't know what is going to be expected on that
Okay.
philosophical.
Okay, but what is your guess?
Guess in quantum.
Okay. Any other? Let's try to understand this, right? So when we talk about philosophy, right? So we we try to inquire what is reality, right? And we try to understand reality from different perspective, try to define it basically, right? We also try to understand the reason behind it. What causes what, basically? Why a particular thing exists like this, right? And then we also see whether this action or this cause is a local in nature or probably distant in nature, basically. Right? This is very important in terms of the one of the philosophical understanding, right? Secondly, if you understand things better now, can you also talk about some confidence what would happen in future? Right? Then we also know things works with a particular law, particular science, right? But but we also know that there is a progression also happens there, right? Scientific method is a method where every new discovery, every new law which is coming in, it allows you to recur or probably go back to the fundamentals basically, right? So we always try to see the properties and dispositions that defines the world it is. And that's what the quantum technologies are basically important to know. Right? So some of the things that we know are real and local, and we probably can make a sense of it. There is a causal relation between them, and suddenly quantum brings weirdness to the table. So why this weirdness is basically, right? So then the questioning is the laws and modality that we know and we also understand that world is governed by that, and quantum is something very different which is coming in basically, right? Then another important part is the role of you is also very being important. as an individual and your part that you play in the overall whole, basically, right? And quantum technology is now becoming very important. Your role becomes very important because observation is observer's roles, basically, right? So that's a very important part, right? The, the thing that we are getting to terms with, that at one point in time, there are multiple things that could shape the thing, right? And there could be multiple ways, multiple outcomes, basically, right? So world is now becoming more probabilistic in nature, basically, right? So what are those multiples? So this is one of the important things, right? Time is another important part. Can you define the logic? Can you explain this much better? And also the role that we play as a human. Because our role, our humans' overall contribution to this world, and the way we deal with the situation, way we understand the situation, is very subjective in nature. I'm standing here, but each of you are trying to make sense of this slide, but probably each of you are making sense of this slide differently. That's what the subjectivity of human nature is, right? Each of us understand differently. Each of us has our own experiences, basically. Each of us our own feelings, actually, right? And then these experiences depend on humanity, basically. No matter people, two brothers are not same, basically, right? So that's what until now, the world we know, basically. And subjective experiences, skills, capability remain as a very important thing, and that also determine the way the humanity progress until now, right? So these are different inquiries, and philosophical inquiries are basically laid down to a lot of progress that we have, both in our social, both in our economical, more importantly, scientific progresses as well, right? Sometimes they also helped us to spiritually understand ourselves, right? There's a spiritual enlightenment. So philosophical inquiry has contributed to that, for that as well, right? So these are different domains, actually represent domains by which you inquire the world, and philosophy as a discipline has been helping you to do this systematically, basically, right? So let's try to understand, right, where it actually started, this discipline of philosophy, where it started, right? And we all know that Socrates is been called as a founder of discipline of philosophy, basically, right? Because by that time, there is an established process that some people are noble people, they are great people, and they should be respected, treated differently than other people, basically. Because intelligence is you come with those born in a DNA, basically, for that matter, basically. They probably come from a noble family, they come from all of those kind of background, and that's why you probably need to respect them, and they were commanding quite a significant world that time, basically, right? So he started saying anybody can be intelligent, anybody can be competent, basically, right? If a person start inquiring, a person start questioning, and he did that. One of the very interesting stories on that, right? So when he started talking about this, people challenged him, what you are saying? Then he got some sweeper in the room. There's the allied noble people coming together, they discuss different topics, and he called one sweeper there, and he started asking him question. And continuous questioning, then suddenly people started realizing that this guy, because of just asking question to him one by one, and he's starting to answer question, trying to make sense of that, he's becoming much better of trying to put things together, basically. Trying to give logic behind those things together, basically. And this was such a kind of a shocking thing for those community that time. What this guy is saying? So the people command those respect, basically, right? Based on their capabilities and based on the conventional beliefs, basically, right? And Socrates is saying that this belief needs to be questioned. Each belief needs to be questioned, basically, for that matter. In fact, they killed him, right, for this. And that's why Pluto was his probably student. He has taken his work ahead, and he's the one. Then he started the academy basically, right? So Socrates' methods are inquiry, each and everything in front of you. Ask critical question. Look at all the dimensions involved in that and examine that particular proposition, that particular idea, that particular things on those background basically. Right? Then Pluto has taken it to different level. What he said is, this is definitely one important part, but things has some patterns, has some relations basically, has some forms basically. And you can define mathematics for that. You can probably put a structure for that. You start finding relation between them basically. So it's a theory of forms basically, right? And there the Pluto probably started his academy, right? To teach people two methods, questioning and trying to understand situation, things around it in more structured way basically, in more setting up, developing forms around it basically. And the mathematics, the modern mathematics started from that kind of a structure basically, right? So when you start asking questions, you yourself and things around you basically, you become unbiased basically, right? And you also start unveiling the complexity, right? Things looks complex to us, but decomposition one by one, asking question one after another, going to each components of that, going details of that, probably you then try to take over on this complexity basically, right? Then when you start doing all that, you start then finding better ways of doing particular things. So the innovations comes out of it basically, right? And this is what the science has done, right? So all these scientists, innovators nowadays for that matter, a lot of startups for that matter, so they try to take on a problem, they try to critically examine that problem, they try to look at all those possible things, and from that actually new innovations comes in the picture, right? So these are basic foundational Western philosophical ideas basically, right? And entire development of Western philosophy has origin into this basically, right? So Socrates' methods was more dialectic, more questioning. Each hypothesis you test, you probably try to understand the kind of gaps in that or fallacy in that for that matter. And he presented and developed these methods of questioning basically, right? And largely his effort was to unveil the contradiction in the beliefs and persons basically, right? And then as I talked about, the Plato talked about the theory of forms and theoretical physics and all of those modern science things that we talk about, credit goes to Plato basically. And that tells us now, right, why we are making an AI. Because if you start, why this is different, right? Why it is intelligent basically, why it is different than other animals for that matter. So if you start inquiring that, if you start understanding better. So in a way, we are making artificial intelligence and progressing on that actually to know what is this. And this is what the effort which is being put together basically, right? And this scientific inquiry, this scientific development basically, and Western philosophy is always like this, right? And has always created this kind of thing. We always have thing that a lot of these ideas probably had been discussed in the, and that I will talk about that in the next slide. What against this, Indian philosophy or Eastern philosophy, how they look at all of this thing basically, right? Any doubt or question on this? So why $2.8 to $3 trillion being invested in AI? The reason is this. So getting hold of that reality, getting hold of all that possible thing, right? And for that matter, I'm not sure this word, but this word is very importantly now being discussed. Why there is a tremendous amount of investment on happening in AGI? Because there are still many things which you don't know. Still there is many realities we don't know. If there is a multi-universe exists for that matter, we don't know. right? How to get hold of that multi-universe. If we know we can travel at a time, or time traveling for that matter, we know that theoretically is possible basically. But can you get hold of that reality? So that you can time travel basically, right? So there are a lot of those possibilities that we talk about basically. So we also know that there is a particular star somewhere out in some other 650 million kind of years, light years away from us. Means whatever signals we are getting from the star here, there are 6 million light years or 6 million years away from us for that matter basically. 650 million years away from us basically, right? So means currently, this is our current, but if you're getting signal from that, so past is also here. So then maybe there is a possibility that what happened until now, there's a possibility for us to look at what happened until now basically, right? But this is a theoretical possibility. But if you are able to build technology on top of it basically, we will be able to probably do some of this. I'm not saying everything is possible, but at least some of this basically. And AGI and ASI that people talk about is trying to take us there basically. And those are the investment that is happening in that basically. Okay?
I think it is dual. I think what you say is right to understand the complexity and trying to understand, as you are mentioning about the past and future. But the money when goes into the business, when you do some research, the probable outcome is earning money also. It is not just spending money on
But
that part.
to do this kind of thing, you need $3-4 trillion
Yeah, that's
that kind of money, right?
But very interesting.
Yeah.
I think the first time we are hearing this,
Yeah.
very, very interesting. Yeah.
Any other comment? Okay. So let me go to the next, right? So this is a comparison basically, right? So this is a very important to understand, right? So as I talked about, subjective experiences, right? And the objective process. So this slide or this particular proposition talks about each and everything that is happening. If I'm able to find reason, make a connection, find patterns basically, that's the effort we are putting together. But we know that individual intelligence is a subjective in nature. And this subjective experience, right, which is a private, which is first person, which is qualitative feeling of each of us basically, right? And we are also, we talk about, we know, sometimes some people in our philosophy talks about ki hum brahmasmi. I exist because I think for that matter, right? So many different things. So concepts here are largely your own unique experiences basically, right? And many of these you can't really directly observe yourself, right? And the main challenge is definitely we know that we are here, we know how we think, we know how we feel, we know how we act basically, but we struggle to understand why. There is no causality for that. There is no full understanding of why in a particular situation I act like this basically, right? And then another interesting thing, which is the last line here in the subjective experiences basically. So many times it happens like there are millions and thousands of things which probably happening in my mind. And I'm now talking about the quantum AI in philosophy, right? So then I'm collapsing all of those thinking to this particular subject I am talking about basically. So these are subjective experiences basically against the objective processes basically. What we are trying to say, we are trying to measure it. This is a third person physical phenomena for that matter. Somebody else is trying to observe and trying to learn from it basically, right? Then here we know that it's my own experiences, but then if I'm trying to convert objective processes, I'm saying how neuron works, how they fire, how they make a connection, right? How I understand the brain waves, how do I make sure all these functions for that matter, basically, right? How I can test it, basically, how can I measure it, basically, right? How I can do, how I can I explain okay, why I'm feeling a particular situation, particular way, basically, right? There are scientists. There is a group of scientists recently came together and they started understanding how many different types we all laugh. And they collected data of that for so many thousands of years of data of that, basically. And they came, like, there are 800 different ways we laugh. Means the entire, your laugh as an emotion. So there's a degree, 800 different types of laugh, basically. Right? So, and we know that each of us laugh differently, but now scientific objective process is trying to understand what that means, basically. And that's what the emotional AI people talk about, right? AI native systems people talk about. So trying to convert the subjective experiences to the objective processes is a larger effort, basically. And whatever effort we are putting together to develop AI is actually those efforts, basically. We smell, right? If we smell, then they are trying to understand. This was my discussion, I remember when I had an opportunity to meet Satyanarila. He was saying smell is difficult, Vinayak. AI system, we are struggling to smell. Yes. But now they are progressing there as well, right? So now, I talked about the laugh, right? AI systems, now there are people who replace their entire call center with AI call center, basically, right? Because AI system can understand human emotions much better. They can converse with human much better, basically. Right? So the effort which we see now in terms of AI, the kind of effort and this big money which is getting invested to make it possible that all those subjective understanding, your intelligence, my intelligence. So all of our intelligence, basically, is there a way for translating all of that into objective processes? If you are able to do that, then you are able to make a very powerful AI, basically. So this is a very interesting philosophical way of understanding this, right? So you have to understand AI and philosophy for that matter, right? AI talks about integrating unifying all the experiences, all those realities for that matter, modalities, language, domains, right? And each of us are known by our language. Each of us are known by our modalities. So AI is trying to integrate all of that, basically, right? It is trying to aggregate the perspectives across the globe for any situation. Every perspective is trying to aggregate the perspectives, basically, right? It is helping you to reflect on situation, basically. And there are meta way of reflecting. So if you reflect this way, there are billions and millions of people reflect this way, basically. Is there a common ground for that, basically, right? And it also all pervasive, and this is becoming all pervasive now, basically. Each of us are using AI for so many different reasons. Millions and billions of people are using it, basically, right? So these are things that that is pushing AI to the next and next boundaries. And these boundaries, there's a very interesting idea in our own philosophy. What it says is, there's a Keval Gyan. It's a very interesting philosophical idea. It's like, which is possessing complete knowledge, complete universal truth. And look at the next line. Past, present, and future. So this includes not just the factual information, but deep understanding of underlying principles, basically, governing the universe, basically, right? It is not very domain specific. It extends across all aspects, all domains, basically. It's something like a Brahma Gyan, basically, right? And the way AI is getting built is actually democratizing this Brahma Gyan. Each of us is getting access to this Brahma Gyan, basically, right? There used to be some Rishi Muni who has this Brahma Gyan. And there are still some people, right, who can answer every question that you ask, basically, right? But now each of us are getting access to this, basically. So translating these individualistic capabilities, intelligence, to making it the global wisdom, global intelligence, basically. So this is a process, right? This is our spiritual idea, right? For our self-actualization, self-realization, self-enlightenment, basically. We achieve that epistemically. That's what the enlightenment that we achieved. Buddha achieved it, Mahavir achieved it for that matter, basically. So this is an idea, and this is a little bit correcting this to the philosophical idea that we see in Indian philosophy. There is also interesting concepts, philosophical concept for that matter, which we can relate that to quantum science and quantum technologies basically. We know quantum is what basically? Quantum talks of superposition. There are thousands, millions things happening in my brain. And once you start on one thing, or you ask me one question, then it collapses, right? Superposition is like that, right? So you flip the coin, there are multiple different ways the coin in the air, but once you catch hold of it basically, then it like this head or tail basically, right? Superposition, that process basically, right? There are millions, billions different way that qubit for that matter, or that quantum mechanism for that matter. If it is spin compute, billion different it may be spinning basically. And you are getting hold of that basically, right? So Anekantvad for that matter in one of the philosophy which talks about there are multiple things that you exist basically. Right? You have this another concept, the 7 different, we all live 7 different lives basically. We are part of 7 different universe for that matter actually. There is also something called as there is already a Parmanu concept was there. It's a subatomic concept basically in philosophical. And then there is also idea for that matter, whatever you do, there's a dependent origination. Means what Buddha says is nothing happens randomly. Something leads to somewhere. It's called a dependent origination basically. So some of these ideas are now increasingly being discussed in the context and realm of the quantum computer and artificial intelligence. So as a Data Security Council of India, we are investigating this. In fact, knowing there's an AI Impact Summit happening next year, global level, Government of India is hosting that, and there are multiple pre-impact summits which are being planned. So DSA is doing philosophers meet in AI, getting all philosophers possible who understand philosophy and understand a little bit on AI together to make a sense of the world the way it is happening for us now, right? Basically. There's another perspective to this as well, which is neuroscience perspective for this basically, right? So this is something I wanted to talk about. If you start understanding this more philosophical level, you develop understanding more foundational in nature. Then it becomes easy for you to get hold of something coming now or something until now basically, right? So this entire AGI or ASI that super intelligence people talk about, right? Singularity age that we talk about basically. And at the same time quantum coming in, right? And quantum, they say we are quantum. Human is a quantum phenomena for that matter. So a lot of these quantum processor qubits are running in our brain for that matter actually. And they are running in many times independently, and they suddenly something happens and they collapse to that thing that you are doing right now, or that thing that you want to do, or that task that you are executing right now basically, right? So if you start understanding this in a philosophical level and why things are evolving, so it becomes easy to probably get hold of any complex, difficult subjects that are shaping the world as we see now, right? So this is what we have 5 minutes. If there's any question, anything.
In entanglement and superposition, to capture this, the one moment, the time is important. So how to calculate and what time we should capture?
Yeah, so
This is my question.
thus they're saying if you try to measure a quantum state, as I talked about, there are infinite quantum states. If you try to measure it, you will measure only one part of it. The act of measurement itself collapses it to one level, right? So you're not able to measure everything basically. So the entire quantum computing concepts are doing this measurement, right? Or for example, observing. Observation is a intervention there basically, right? We philosophical they say कि अगर जंगल में पेड़ गिरा है, अगर किसने देखा नहीं तो गिरा नहीं है. So observer's roles becomes very important. Quantum works on this philosophy, right?
Yeah.
Once you have superconducting state for that matter, or photonic quantum state for that matter, it will be showing infinite states. But moment somebody sees that, moment there is a way to see that basically, then it will collapse to the level.
So there is no any kind of mathematical state like in our electronics. If we are going to the resonance, the T is equal to 1 by RC.
No,
so
there is mathematical
such
equation
kind
for
of
this.
the
So there is
determining the timing.
No,
In
for
quantum.
that particular instance, there is a state, and you can record that state. Okay, when I'm seeing this in this particular fraction of time or this particular moment, what is the state of this? And you can record that. And that's where the quantum information theory evolved. How do you, if you observe, you change the behavior. Once it changes the behavior, you record that behavior basically. And based on that, you do the processing basically. Entanglement is very interesting. So I think in first slide, we talked about this, right? The causality. We know, when you say causality, we always say the causality is local in nature. For example, if I act, I create just impact here. But entanglement tells us it's a global, universal in nature basically. If two particles in a quantum state and they are entangled, inverse apart, if you spin one particle in this way, the other will spin that way. That's how the quantum communication is being discussed right now, right? On a space, for the matter, China is saying 1,000 to 200 kilometer. On the air, they are able to entangle the particles. And that's why they are able to establish the 1,200 kilometer on air communication channel basically. And now they are talking about 10,000 kilometer quantum network they already established in China and some places basically, right? So entanglement is a spoopy action at distance. And it's very weird phenomena, right? Doesn't match or map to the classical science, mathematics that we know. And you need to find different science, different method. And that's why the quantum entire technology mechanics has been defined basically. It's 150 years history of a development of quantum science basically. Okay, we have 1 or 2 minutes. Hope this was useful at least to some extent. Okay. Yeah, so then we are breaking. So we try to do this every year, and I think thank you. We are starting the track sessions at 9:15 only. Thank you for joining.